All right, so let's talk some more, archaeology and stuff. And two people sent me this, what I'm about to share with you, because I said in my video the other day, my woo-woo friend, the girl, she goes, Joe, my guide is Asian. She wants you to be very successful out there in New Mexico because she's telling me there's some kind of lost Asian treasure something that I think you're going to find at some point that's out there with what you're looking for. And I was like, this is Spanish stuff. That doesn't make sense. Well, at that time it didn't. And so she said, my guide knows you'll do the right thing and return it to the Chinese people. And that's why she wants you and is going to help you find this. And I thought, oh, okay, great. Because I would do that. I would do the right thing. Again, I want a finder's fee, but I would love to bring back something that's been gone for a long time. So I asked you guys, hey, do you know anything? You've ever heard anything? And I got a few things sent to me. And I want to read you these. And by chance, this is both in New Mexico. Okay? Which I know I'm sharing this screen, but you don't really need to see it. I'm just going to read it to you. Ancient origins. New evidence. Ancient Chinese explorers landed in America excites experts. What? And where did they land, huh? New Mexico. Well, what is now New Mexico. John A. Ruskamp Jr. Reports that he has identified an outstanding, history-changing treasure hidden in plain sight. High above a walking path in Albuquerque's Petroglyph National Monument, Ruskamp spotted petroglyphs that struck him as unusual. After consulting with experts on Native American rock writing and ancient Chinese scripts to corroborate his analysis, he had concluded that the readable message preserved by these petroglyphs was likely inscribed by a group of Chinese explorers thousands of years ago. On the fringe of archaeology have long been claims that the Chinese reached North America long before the Europeans, with some renowned experts taking interest in Ruskamp's discovery. Those claims may be working their way from the fringe to the core. So it says to date, Ruskamp has identified over 82 petroglyphs matching unique ancient Chinese scripts, not only at multiple sites in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but also in nearby Arizona, as well as in Utah, Nevada, California, Oklahoma, and even Ontario. Collectively, he believes that most of these artifacts were created by an early Chinese exploration expedition, although some appear to be reproductions made by native people for their own purposes. Do you really think if there were in that many states, it was just an expedition? Or were these people like here and living for a while and, you know what I mean? So there's this other story from tabletmag.com. The Mystery Stone. Does a rock in New Mexico show the Ten Commandments in ancient Hebrew? Harvard professor says yes. Once again, around Albuquerque. Now, by the way, my area is not Albuquerque. It's south, quite a bit south. Not that I don't have sites throughout New Mexico, by the way, that I've never even stepped foot on that my buddy has like on the back burner. Oh yeah, let's work on these things first before we do these other things. 20 miles south of Albuquerque in the Rio Grande Valley lies the town of Los Lunas, home to roughly 14,000 souls who tend to be religious but vote Democrat and listen to country music but not Rush Limbaugh. Main Street coincides with Route 6, along with which one passes the middle school, the Los Lunas Public Library, and the fire department. The biggest employer here is Walmart. The second biggest is a prison located at the edge of an empty field. Los Lunas is also home to a curious artifact of mysterious origin. An 80-ton stone bearing a written code that is 8.5 lines long. The stone itself is about 4.5 feet tall. Its back end embedded into the mountain in the desert that is near the town. The characters etched into its surface are white, deeply engraved, and strangely geometric. They are chiseled in long, precise lines and seem to be grouped together in clusters resembling words. Every so often, a dot approximating a period appears after one of the clusters. Who wrote this code? In the heart of the Rio Abajo Desert. And in what language is it written? For a while, the jury was out. Since the stone's discovery in 1930s, 3 different translations appeared. One said it was a combination of Phoenician, Etruscan, and Egyptian letters that tell a halting, indeterminate tale of ambiguous survival and responsive weather. Quote, "We retreated while under attack. Then we traveled over the surface of the water. Then we climbed without eating." He says, it reads, "And then just when we were greatly in need of water, we had rain. In the water, we sat down." So another person, this woman, Dixie L. Perkins, she thinks it's an early version of Greek. Her translation is slightly more Gothic. Quote, "I have come up to this point. The other one met with an untimely death 1 year ago. Dishonored, insulted, and stripped of flesh, the men thought him to be an object of care, whom I looked after, considered crazed, wandering in mind, to be tossed about as if in the wind, to perish, streaked with blood. I, Zaki Nerus, am dross, scum, refuse, just as on board a ship, a soft, effeminate sailor is flogged with an animal's hide." Sounds very odd. And then finally, a person from Harvard, Robert Pfeiffer, was Harvard Semitic Museum with them in 1949. He went to look at it. He says he thinks it's a mixture of Moabite, Greek, and ancient Phoenician, an orthography that is basically Paleo-Hebrew, the script of the Jews prior to their exile to Babylon. There is even a debate in the Talmud as to whether the Torah that was originally given to the Israelites was written in Paleo-Hebrew or Assyrian, today's Hebrew orthography. The alphabet continued to be used by Samaritans and was known by Irish theologian and scholar Henry Dodwell as early as 1691, who wrote in his A Discourse Concerning Sanchoniathon's Phoenician History that the Samaritans, not Sumerians, the Samaritans still preserve the Pentateuch in the Old Hebrew character, however you pronounce that. But it was his translation of the mysterious inscription on the stone that created the greatest interest among scholars and others. Quote, "I am Yahweh, the God who brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt not make unto thee a graven image." The stone began to be referred as the Mystery Stone, or Commandment Rock, a title that gained further currency when the Epigraphic Society accepted Pfeiffer's reading of the inscription as a truncated form of the Ten Commandments that, according to the Hebrew Bible, were given to Moses at Mount Sinai. So what explanation could possibly lead to the inscription of the Ten Commandments in Hebrew on a rock in the middle of the New Mexico desert? When I arrived in Los Lunas early one morning in February, which I'm not sure what year this was, probably years ago, I was told that the person to speak to about the Mystery Stone was Cynthia Shetter, the town librarian. Quote, "She knows everything about that stone. Very few people in the town seem to have heard of the stone, and no one I met had ever seen it. Shetter learned about the rock in her capacity as librarian because, as she put it, a lot of people such as yourself were calling and coming into the library. Shetter is from a town south of Los Lunas, originally called Hot Springs, until its inhabitants voted to rename it Truth or Consequences. Truth or Consequences is the town that we stay in, way south of there, way south of Albuquerque, or south of Los Lunas, although I don't think Los Lunas is too far. So that's interesting. It was renamed after the game show. She says, Shetter grew up on a ranch before becoming the Story Hour mom and then the chief librarian, and her cowgirl past is never far from the surface. She has an easy, unpretentious manner, is quick to laugh, and absorbs knowledge like a sponge. Throughout the day, I observe her patiently waiting for various men to finish speaking and then subtly correcting them in a tone of voice that makes it sound like she is agreeing with them. In her 50s, she is still an attractive woman with long blonde hair and a twinkle in her blue eyes. She knows everyone and everything about Los Lunas and may well be the town's next mayor. She clears her schedule at the opportunity to take me to see the Mystery Stone. When I ask her who she thinks wrote the inscription, she smiles and says, well, it's a mystery. She tells me that former Mayor Lewis Hunning's father, Jack Hunning, remembers the stone as a child. The Huntings were the German homesteaders who moved into the area in the 1850s, fleeing the German army. Lewis died last year at the age of 80, she says, so that puts it way back in the 1920s or 30s. And he says that he was shown it by an Indian sheep herder who had seen it when he was a kid. So that's back in the 1880s. She shrugs and smiles and says again, it's a good mystery. She seems proud of the stone for keeping its secrets. She buys water and Cliff Bars, and we made the journey out to the Mystery Stone. After the long ride, along for the ride is John Taylor, a former engineer who has written 2 books about the Civil War in New Mexico and is now working on a book called Murder, Mystery, and Mayhem in the Rio Abajo. Well over 6 feet tall, with a deep booming voice and big gray eyes, he has never seen the stone before. What is this? Continue reading Hidden Mountain. There are many more mysteries at the Albuquerque area than just the Mystery Stone. Taylor tells us that as we turn off Route 6 and onto the dirt road that leads to the stone, for example, when the Franciscans came, again, those are those old treasure people Snips knows about, the Jesuits and those kind of guys. When they came in the 16th century to convert the Indians who now live in the reservation, on the reservation just north of Los Lunas, it turned out that they had already been converted. They are said to have asked the friars for sacraments. So who had converted them? Sister Maria de Jesus de Agreda, the legend held, a Franciscan nun who lived in Spain and had never traveled, but who had appeared to them in a collective vision over 500 times and preached to them in their own language. There is also the fact, Taylor tells me, that Elizabeth Taylor's 3rd husband died in a plane crash not far from Los Lunas. Mystery Stone lies at the foot of Hidden Mountain, so named by the Indians, though no one seems to know why. I had procured a permit from the state land office, but on the way, Shetter says she has to make another call to Martin Ebieta, she pronounces it Martine, the manager of Comanche Ranch, which now belongs to the Asleta Indians. We will be crossing Indian land to get to the state trust land, she explains. I once came out here with some folks from University of New Mexico, and Martin came and shut us down. He was pissed, she adds to herself, dialing. Her tone when she informs him that we are going to be on Indian land is exactly the one I would have used. Firm, but conciliatory. The gate that leads, or whatever. See that? She points to another mountain, lower than Hidden Mountain, and to the east where we are standing. I shade my eyes to look. That's Pottery Mound. It's an ancient Indian site. No whites can go there anymore, since UNM returned it to the tribe. That was Ebieta's doing. I've been in this town for 25 years, and I've never seen it. Anyways, just some interesting stuff, both of which are in freaking New Mexico. I just want to be out there, going to all these places, checking out all these things, and just experiencing so many of this different stuff. I mean, there's so much of this history that we don't even know about. I've never heard about this stone. Never heard about none of this stuff. And here it is, again, in New Mexico, with a Chinese twist. And oh, come on, man. So, take care.